Good morning and welcome to this week's Lenten Devotional. Have you ever had a moment when you felt like God wasn't there? Like you prayed, you read your Bible, you went to worship, and yet you can't seem to find God. It's as if God is playing some cosmic game of hide and seek, and you're getting tired of seeking and seeking and seeking. And I've been in that spot from time to time. The most recent time, I didn't feel desperate so much as frustrated. And when that happens, I always find that a walk in the neighborhood or in nature helps the most. And I pray something like this: God, I'm doing all the stuff. I'm praying, I'm putting all the effort into what I'm supposed to do as a pastor. I mean, look at all this Jesus stuff I'm doing for you. Why aren't you speaking to me? Where are you? Have you ever prayed a prayer like that? And those words flowed out. Quickly, my mind was filled with a picture of being at home and quickly tidying up before a guest's arrival, putting clutter away or hiding it, a quick vacuum of dog hair, a quick window cleaning of nasty fingerprints. And in my mind's eye, these tasks kept happening one right after another, and I was frantic and even, shouting up the stairs for help from a family member before the people came over. And as I did all of that, running from thing to thing in my own home, Jesus was sitting in the living room on the floor watching me going about my tasks. And as I scrambled from thing to thing, I'm practically stepping over Jesus to do the tasks at hand. And yet here he was sitting quietly in the middle of my mental living room. And then my mind turned to the story of Mary and Martha in Luke 10. If you remember the story, Martha is cleaning and preparing for dinner, and she's running around to get everything ready for Jesus' arrival. And the story said that she was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Meanwhile, where is her sister Mary? She's not cleaning at all or helping with dinner. She's not getting her act together. She's just sitting at Jesus' feet, hanging on every word, just as she is. And so finally Martha gets a little fed up. She goes to Jesus and says, "Don't you care?" How many of us know that sentiment, feeling like you're trying so hard, but Jesus doesn't care? Jesus, don't you care how hard I'm working? Don't you care I'm praying and seeking you? Don't you care? Just fill in the words. Or in Martha's case, don't you care that my sister has left me with all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. In other words, do something, Jesus. I'm doing all these things for you. Why aren't you doing anything for me? And yet, ironically, who is Martha doing all this preparation for? Jesus. And who is already living and who is already in her living room? And so Jesus replies, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things." One translation I like says, "You are anxious and troubled by many things, but few things are required. Indeed, only one." Okay, Jesus, so what is it? And he says, "Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." I mean, think of the irony. Martha is busy and running around preparing for Jesus, that she's not listening to Jesus right in the middle of her living room. She's occupying herself with things that Jesus never asked her to do. And as I read the words of the story, it dawned on me that I'm doing a lot of things around Jesus, maybe even things that seem like they are for Jesus or are spiritual in nature, but missing the person of Jesus right in front of me. Another way to put it, it's possible to do a lot of things that seem to be serving Jesus, but not listening to Jesus much at all. To busy ourselves with things that feel like they are Jesus' priorities, but they aren't even on his list. My problem is never that Jesus is far away and unavailable. But like Martha, I am distracted with things that seem like Jesus' priorities, but actually cause me to miss him. And I wonder how many of us are like Martha, distracted. Our attention is pulled and pushed in 100 different directions, and we're anxious and troubled by 100 different things. And so we're desperately asking Jesus to show up to work and to meet us when he's been with us all along. And in his own gentle way, Jesus reminds us that only one thing is required. Imagine that. Imagine all of the things that you have on your mind, and Jesus saying, one thing is required. Just sit and listen. Many of the conditions we've added on top of being ready for Jesus, a Bible reading plan, a type of prayer, a sets of do's and don'ts, a list of morality, are things that Jesus has never asked of us. He simply wants to be with us in our worries and anxieties, our fears and our wrestlings, to enter our home, so to speak, to have us sit and listen. And so with that, I just want to walk through a prayerful reading of this story. It would be helpful to find a comfortable spot, even with a journal open, and just take a deep breath in and out. And right where you are, to pray that the Spirit of Jesus would come dwell with you, to enter your home wherever or wherever you are. And as I read, just put yourself in the place of Martha. Imagine what it would be like preparing yourself for Jesus to come into your home. It's Luke 10:38. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted. And just take a moment and ask Jesus, what has been pulling from my attention lately? Or with what am I distracted? It goes on to say that Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. What ways have you felt like you've had to prepare yourself or your life, or maybe even to get your act together before meeting Jesus? Just allow him to show you that. It goes on. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered. And so just imagine Jesus looking at you with kindness and tenderness in his voice and saying your name, that with all patience and gentleness, Martha, Martha. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, or you are anxious and troubled. Ask Jesus to show you what things you're anxious about. What is worrying and upsetting you? And sit with that a moment. It can be helpful maybe to even list out the things that are making you anxious as you listen. Jesus said, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Take a moment to sit with that. That so much that we occupy ourselves with can be taken away. And yet moments spent with Jesus will not be. Jesus' presence will never be taken from us. As Jesus said to his own disciples, I am with you always. Or even as the psalmist wrote, goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. So as you prepare to re-enter your day with all the tasks that are ahead of you, take a moment to ask, where is Jesus waiting for me? Or maybe, what have you distracted yourself with? What are you worried about? What might it look like to sit with Jesus and listen right as you are? In the words of Jesus, only one thing is required. God bless.